Tonight, anxiety and threats, the dramatic fallout of the assassination of Qasem Soleimani. Iran abandons its nuclear deal, and Iraq vows to boot out American troops. What it means from Washington to Tehran, and what comes next.
I've never seen it to this magnitude.
Plus, inside the fight against Australia's historic wildfires, David Common takes us into the Operations Center.
It's a gold medal!
Team Canada tops the podium. We head to the hometown of one of Canada's next-gen stars.
The last scene we did in the motel was very, very emotional.
And saying goodbye to Schitt's Creek.
It felt like home.
Eugene Levy on his show's legacy and the power of comedy. This is The National. The chaos triggered by the killing of Qasem Soleimani, Iran's most celebrated military leader, is growing rapidly. And tonight, The National has full coverage. We investigate reports of Iranians being detained at the U.S.-Canadian border as hostile rhetoric escalates, with Donald Trump threatening to hit dozens of Iranian targets. We follow Iran's pledges to enrich uranium without limits, raising fears of renewed nuclear crisis. And in Iraq, a vote by lawmakers to expel U.S. forces that could undermine efforts to counter Iran and ISIS. From the moment it happened, there were warnings Soleimani's assassination could change the Middle East, and that is where Carolyn Dunn begins our coverage tonight.
Throngs of people filled the streets as the body of General Qasem Soleimani was returned to Iran. Iran's parliament vowing to avenge a martyr with chants of death to America. Its speaker calling the attack terrorism. Iraq furiously denounced the killing as a breach of its sovereignty. Its parliament angrily voted for the expulsion of U.S. troops working in that country to quell a resurgence of ISIS. Although it's not clear when the government will act on that vote. This Middle East expert warned the attack will have serious long-term consequences.
What President Trump did is to risk and endanger American lives throughout the Middle East and probably beyond. The killing of Soleimani has poured gasoline on a raging fire.
Britain, along with Canada, is part of the anti-ISIS coalition in Iraq. In a statement, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson said General Qasem Soleimani posed a threat to all our interests, given his actions have led to the deaths of thousands of innocent civilians and Western personnel. We will not lament his death. But his government still urged calm.
Boris Johnson is furious with Donald Trump because he had not told them about the killing of Soleimani in advance. There is anxiety all over European capitals, including in the UK.
Anxiety is running deep for NATO allies. A Canadian-led mission to train Iraqi security forces has been suspended to protect personnel, and the alliance will hold an emergency meeting on Monday. Meanwhile, increasing tensions are only fueling Iran's anger. Today, it made it clear it will no longer abide by limits on its nuclear program, as it considers even harsher retaliation for the assassination of its national hero. Carolyn Dunn, CBC News, London.
And as you heard there, roughly 500 Canadian troops in Iraq have put their training mission on hold, but it isn't over despite the Iraqi vote. According to the Department of National Defense, we continue to monitor and evaluate the situation and remain in close coordination with our international partners. Our goal remains a united and stable Iraq and preventing the reemergence of Daesh or ISIS. To Paul Hunter now in Washington, where the U.S. president is signaling a readiness to escalate this conflict, even as his decision to kill Soleimani faces growing scrutiny.
As Donald Trump arrived back in Washington tonight after a Christmas break in Florida, he had a message for his critics. Just hours after announcing the U.S. had targeted 52 sites inside Iran, including some that are culturally sensitive, tonight he's emphasized, should Iran strike any U.S. person or target, he tweeted, the United States will quickly and fully strike back, and perhaps in a disproportionate manner. In the fallout from the killing of Qasem Soleimani, with the fury already and the potential for retaliation, Trump critics have slammed the president, not least because Trump did what he did without broadly consulting the U.S. Congress. The new tweet, wrote Trump, serves as official notification for whatever he chooses to do next.
We will defend America.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo today took the unusual step of appearing on all of the major Sunday talk shows, underlining the U.S. position that intelligence findings on Soleimani had it that he'd been plotting a, quote, imminent attack against the U.S. and absolutely had to be killed.
I'm confident that the decision we made to take down this terrorist, this designated terrorist who had inflicted so much harm over such an extended period, was the right course of action to reduce risk to America.
But pretty much every aspect of what Trump's done the past few days has come under fire from Trump critics.
He's been erratic and unsuccessful in almost every previous foreign policy endeavor. This one is the most dangerous of all.
I don't think the intelligence supports the conclusion that killing a top Iranian official is going to either stop plotting or improve American security.
We're now headed very close to the precipice of war.
Paul, we know that Trump can be sensitive to criticism at home, but how's he responding to the pushback in the Middle East?
Well, toward the end of his flight home tonight, he called reporters into the presidential cabin for a 30-minute conversation. On the record, he talked about the vote in Iraq today aimed at expelling American troops from that country, telling reporters the U.S. spent billions on the American air base there, and so, quote, we're not leaving unless they pay us back for it, adding if Iraq forces the U.S. out, quote, we will charge them sanctions like they've never seen before, ever. And remember, Iraq is a U.S. ally. Trump also talked about the heat he's taken for now targeting Iranian cultural sites. Here's another quote. They're allowed to kill our people, they're allowed to torture and maim our people, and we're not allowed to touch their cultural site. It doesn't work that way. As for potential Iranian retaliation broadly, if it happens, he said, adding again, if they do anything, there will be major retaliation in return. Ian.
All right, thank you, Paul. Paul Hunter, Ian, Washington tonight. With Iranian lawmakers chanting death to America, it is clear that vengeance is on the agenda. But what could retaliation look like? We asked Katie Nicholson to find out.
There are many options for possible direct and indirect attacks through the Iranian military or through its allies. One option is direct military action. In an interview with CNN, this senior military advisor to the Ayatollah says Iran isn't seeking an all-out war, but it will deliver a blow to the U.S. equal to the blow they have delivered. But this Middle East expert says Iran's bark may be worse than its bite.
We've seen very strong rhetoric, saying that they will pursue revenge, and they may well do so. But I hesitate to predict what the specific response is going to be or how broad it's going to be, primarily because what we've seen from the Iranians is that they are also rational actors.
Iran could use its regional influence to launch a proxy military attack on a U.S. ally, for example. Today, the former head of Iran's Revolutionary Guard said retaliation will include attacks on Israel and Israeli military centers.
Iran will probably seek to project its power through its proxy forces, through the areas where it has influence, such as Lebanon, Iraq, possibly Yemen, as well as Syria. And these actions are just simply going to result in more violence, in more victimization of the citizens in those countries.
Iran could choose to attack the oil supply. Remember this? It was July. The Iran Revolutionary Guard captured this British tanker. Geography gives Iran a lot of leverage. Nearly 30% of all oil tanker traffic moves through these waters in the Strait of Hormuz. Another possibility is cyber attacks. Iran has one of the most sophisticated hacking arsenals in the world. Already, it's being accused of taking over a minor U.S. government department website and uploading this picture of the U.S. president being punched in the face. But there are limits to this tactic.
Frankly, I don't think the Iranians will find a cyber attack that satisfying. There are things they can do. They've looked at critical infrastructure in the U.S. and elsewhere, but I think unfortunately, they're going to want to do something a little more violent.
Until Iran makes its move, it's impossible to say how far this could escalate. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Toronto.
As the U.S. braces for what's next, those rising tensions may be spilling into Canada. Reports today that some people born in Iran are being detained as they try to cross into the United States. Tanya Fletcher has their stories.
Sam Sauter was born in Tehran and is a Canadian citizen. He's lived in North Vancouver for 15 years. On Saturday, his family of 4 set out on a weekend trip to Seattle, his first time visiting the U.S. They arrived at the Peace Arch border crossing at 11 a.m. They weren't released until 7:30 p.m. He says they were among dozens of Iranian-born travelers questioned for hours about family history and political ideology.
Mood is completely upset. They saw the kids over there and crying and no water. So they bring it to some snacks and the water.
These are situations that only started yesterday.
Len Saunders is an immigration lawyer based in Blaine, Washington. He says at least 2 clients reached out for legal advice after they faced similar questioning yesterday. One sent him this text message saying, "A lady came by to see if we wanted water. I asked what's going on. She said they started this morning, not saying what this is. I said, should I go back to my parents and come back tomorrow? She said it'll be the same tomorrow." Saunders then drove to the border to see for himself. He says he's heard several stories with one connecting thread.
The only thing that is similar to all of these individuals is they're all born in Iran. And so anyone from that country is being interrogated. I've never seen that in 20 years.
U.S. Customs and Border Protection tells CBC News there has been no directive to detain or refuse Iranians entry into the U.S. because of their country of origin. In a statement, a spokesperson says processing times are the result of the current circumstances, including staffing levels, volume of traffic, and threat posture. As for Sauter, he says he'll never return to the U.S. again.
I told the officer, this is called discrimination. I'm not come back again here and you never see me.
And what did they say?
Good luck.
Tanya Fletcher, CBC News, Vancouver.
To Australia now and those catastrophic fires. Today, cooling temperatures and calmer winds brought some relief, but not for long. As dawn broke on a new day, a new picture of the disaster emerged. The losses have already been staggering. At least 24 people have died, nearly 2,000 homes destroyed, about 200 fires still active. And the hot weather, well, it's set to return. The state of New South Wales has been hit the worst, and that's where the CBC's David Common is on what is now Monday in Australia. David.
Ian, just about anywhere you go along Australia's vast coastline, there is a wildfire burning somewhere nearby, sending thousands of firefighters out of places like this, rapidly trying to save property, homes, and lives.
Fire in Australia has been unrelenting for months, leaping highways, consuming hundreds of homes and millions of acres. Horrifyingly, it is estimated to have killed 500 million birds, reptiles, and mammals. Burned many others, some from already struggling populations. And each day brings a new story of loss.
My neighbour stayed to defend his property, and I didn't stay there. I evacuated, and he contacted me this morning to say, sorry, but my house is gone. Yeah.
All of it taxing firefighters and specialists who've barely had a break in 4 months of intense heat.
I've been in the Rural Fire Service for more than 20 years. I've never seen it to this magnitude. This fire season is definitely been driven by the prolonged drought.
The battle to slow or control these massive fires is coordinated here at the State Operations Centre, and they're being joined by dozens of Canadians brought in here for their expertise, many more joining over the course of this week. And it's needed help because the fires this year are 20 times the size of what this state normally deals with.
Alberta's Morgan Kerr oversees the growing Canadian contingent in Australia.
And when you think about just the size and the speed,
that's something we've really had to wrap our heads around. Like, we've seen extreme fire behavior in Canada, in all provinces, but not over the geographic area that we're dealing with or with the frequency here. We'll get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days of it. Here it's been 4 months of it.
Even as Australia calls up more of its military for rescues and fire protection, those most on the front lines are remarkably nearly all volunteers, including these three we met heading out on a night shift, including a father-daughter firefighting combo.
What's striking you about what you're seeing?
I think just the extent of the fire and in different areas, and it's pretty unpredictable in the different areas that it can turn up. So some people might think their house is safe, and then a day later it might not be.
Cooler temperatures this week have at least slowed some wildfires' advance.
But many have been burning for weeks, if not months, and there is no expectation, Ian, that this crisis will end anytime soon.
Thanks, David. David Common in Nowra, New South Wales. As you heard, nearly 100 Canadians are in Australia, brought in for their firefighting expertise. And today, the Minister of Foreign Affairs offered more help if it's needed. In a statement, François-Philippe Champagne said, when wildfires spread through Canadian communities, Australia answered our call for help, and we're proud to do the same. Here's some other stories that we're following tonight.
We will not allow all this anti-Semitism that has been rampant in New York City and in the tri-state area and in America continue.
Thousands of people of different faiths marched across New York's Brooklyn Bridge today in a show of solidarity for the city's Jewish community. The No Hate, No Fear rally follows a string of anti-Semitic attacks in recent weeks, including one last weekend at a rabbi's home, which saw 5 people hurt in a machete attack. A man credited with stopping further injuries received New York's highest civilian honor today. Newfoundland's getting hammered by its first major winter storm of 2020, though it is early. Up to 40 centimeters of snow expected to fall across parts of the Avalon Peninsula by early tomorrow. Wind gusts of up to 100 kilometers an hour also in the forecast, making for poor visibility and nasty road conditions.
But everyone was just kind of like, whoa, we still have the tracks.
And that stormy weather likely a factor for a WestJet plane's bumpy landing in Halifax today. The Boeing 737 arriving from Toronto skidded off the end of the runway. All 179 passengers and crew walking away unhurt. The Transportation Safety Board is taking a look. And the matriarch of the Ford political dynasty in Ontario has died. Diane Ford was the mother of the province's current premier, Doug, and the late Toronto mayor, Rob, and she was married to Doug Ford Sr., a former Ontario politician. Ford was often seen supporting her sons at those Ford Nation rallies. A statement from the premier's office describes her as the rock of her family. Diane Ford's death came after a battle with cancer. She was 85. Well, Team Canada is golden again after winning its 18th World Junior Hockey Championship. That's more than any other country.
And Canada's going to win it. It's a gold medal in Ostrava as Canada comes back and beats Russia 4-3.
Perhaps making this victory especially sweet, Canada came from behind in the third period to edge out Russia 4-3. This tournament is where many of us get a good look at some of the pro hockey's next generation of stars. One of them on the ice today, 18-year-old Alexis Lafrenière. His gold medal could be just the start to a very good year for the young Quebecer, who's poised to go pretty high in the NHL draft. And his hometown celebrated with him today. Jayla Bernstein takes us there.
It was a shaky start for Team Canada, but they kept at it and won gold to fans' delight here in the Czech Republic and back home.
Outstanding work by Lafrenière.
Here, about half an hour north of Montreal in Saint-Eustache, locals came out to this sports bar to watch the game and also to cheer on their local hometown star, Alexis Lafrenière.
On voulait absolument voir le début avec notre joueur préféré, Lafrenière.
He says they had to come out to see their favorite player, Lafrenière. The 18-year-old star winger is the projected first overall pick in the 2020 NHL draft. Team Canada lost him to a knee injury earlier in the tournament. Fans here were happy to see him back on the ice.
Oh oui, oh oui, oh oui, oh oui. On va être gagnant.
He says they're certain to win. Lafrenière is so talented. In his hometown, Lafrenière isn't just some star. He's a local boy. Matteo Pianta used to play with him when they were kids.
It's nice to see him. He's excelling. He has 3 games, 8 points, so it's pretty good. Proves that he's one of the best. He proves that he's supposed to be the first pick overall.
She says her daughter is friends with Lafrenière, and they'll no doubt be chatting after the game. She says he's a local kid. He's exciting not just for locals, but for analysts as well.
Whoever drafts him is going to be really lucky. It's a really strong 2020 draft, and I think he'd be first overall in most drafts. But the fact that he's the top prospect for this year, that's huge because he's going to be a game changer for whoever picks him.
These hometown fans couldn't agree more.
Can't wait to see him play in the NHL. He played a great game today, and we're glad we won that gold medal.
Let's go Canada! Nice win!
Jayla Bernstein, CBC News, Saint-Eustache, Quebec.
We're back in 2 minutes with more news, including 2 years after the Me Too movement, Harvey Weinstein heads to trial. And later, Schitt's Creek returns for its final season. Eugene Levy reflects on why it had to end and the legacy he hopes it leaves. That's the national interview. We'll be right back. Hollywood hit the red carpet tonight for the Golden Globes. It is the first major award show of the season, honoring the best in television and films, and it's a party of A-listers. But the occasion has also been used to shine a light on issues such as sexual and workplace harassment. That's helped fuel movements such as Time's Up and Me Too. And what might be seen as a stroke of irony is the timing of tonight's ceremony. It's tomorrow the jury selection begins in the criminal trial of Harvey Weinstein. The disgraced film producer is charged with rape and sexual assault. Stephen D'Souza now on how that trial could play out.
Are you faking your injury for sympathy?
The Harvey Weinstein who hobbled into his final court appearance before the trial in December was a far cry from the confident, powerful media mogul more accustomed to red carpets and paparazzi.
The more victims that they have, the more charged victims that they have, the more likely they'll be able to obtain a conviction.
Kristen Gibbons-Fedden knows about the pressure of a high-stakes celebrity rape trial. She helped prosecute and convict Bill Cosby.
They're going to need to be able to establish or distinguish between Harvey Weinstein, the creep, and Harvey Weinstein, the criminal.
More than 80 women have accused Weinstein of everything from unwanted touching to rape, going back decades. The list is a who's who in Hollywood. But this trial only covers 2 specific cases. Weinstein has pleaded not guilty to 5 charges, denying that he raped a woman in a Manhattan hotel room in 2013 and that he performed a forcible sex act on a former production assistant with his company in 2006.
They're going to be able to use 2 victims in order to try to obtain a conviction.
Gibbons-Fedden says the key is showing Weinstein consistently used his power and influence to prey on women. Weinstein's trial will hear from a number of women whose allegations against the disgraced producer aren't on trial.
The prior bad egg witnesses can testify about the pattern that high-profile offender engaged in order to sexually prey upon them.
One of those witnesses will be former Sopranos actress Annabella Sciorra. 3 other women will also testify. Douglas Wigdor represents one of them, whose identity hasn't been made public.
She knew that as time went on and she got older and maybe had children of her own, that she could look back and say that she tried to make a difference in something that was very important.
Weinstein's lawyer, Donna Rotuno, has publicly criticized the Me Too movement. So this criminal defense lawyer says her strategy will be to put the accuser's stories under a microscope.
If you really want to win, that it is best to give a competing story, which you don't have to prove, but a competing story where enough of the facts fit into it to make it plausible.
In the first big case of the Me Too era, lawyers say the desire to seek justice for the broader movement versus focusing on the specific charges and evidence will be a key challenge for jury selection.
It's going to be impossible to find jurors that haven't heard of it, right, which is what you want to do in all cases. The next step will be to find jurors that have heard of it but can put aside their preconceived notions.
While the defense is sure to pick apart the victims' stories, Gibbons-Fedden hopes the conversations around Me Too have educated the public and courts about how sexual assault survivors behave.
That there is no typical response to sexual abuse, and that if there is a delayed disclosure, if there are efforts to normalize, if there's continued contact with an offender, that does not mean that that woman or man was not sexually abused.
Gibbons-Fedden says the Cosby conviction should give Weinstein's accusers and the prosecution confidence. The question now, will the evidence provide a compelling script to take down a man who was once one of the most powerful in Hollywood? Stephen D'Souza, CBC News, New York.
And CBC News is exploring what's changed since the Me Too movement as part of our series, Me Too 2020. Here's a preview of a story Adrian will have for you tomorrow.
A black car is pulled up, and Harvey Weinstein is emerging right now.
By now, all are aware Harvey Weinstein is the accused predator soon going on trial. But there's been far less outrage about how the allegations were kept hidden for so long. A legal system of secret deals, non-disclosure agreements that may have enabled years of abuse, as it were. We speak with the journalists who found this rotten core of the Harvey Weinstein story and the women who know firsthand the power those agreements have to silence.
That agreement was unethical and egregious on every level. And they're telling you that this is how the law works, then for me, the world was over.
These secret settlements are no joke. They are no joke, and that there are women to this day who are scared of breaking them.
That's tomorrow on The National.
When we come back, the impact of creating an on-screen safe haven.
It's because of this show they were able to come out using the show.
Schitt's Creek star Eugene Levy on promoting LGBTQ acceptance and tolerance. The National interview is next. This is the week Schitt's Creek fans have been waiting for and maybe also dreading.
When it's time to lay down your weary head, you'll find comfort and safety at the partially renovated Rosebud Motel. And don't forget to say hello to your handsome proprietor, Mr. Jonathan Rose.
Thank you for having us.
John, no.
The first episode of the last season debuts Tuesday. Real-life father-son co-creators Eugene and Dan Levy decided to call it quits after season 6. Even though the show is hotter than ever, they feel the story has come to a natural end. By all accounts, Schitt's Creek has been a Canadian success story. Andrew got a chance to speak with Eugene Levy before the season premiere.
It looks like your great-grandfather's your great-grandmother right up the ass. Ronnie, throw the thing.
Schitt's Creek has officially arrived. The story of the once filthy rich Rose family, with attitudes to match, by the way, quickly created a cult following.
You better remember which nails you pulled those wigs from, because your mother keeps a spreadsheet.
The Canadian-born and made sitcom has since exploded in popularity, picking up awards, sparking international buzz, and ranking right up there with the heavy hitters with nominations at the Emmys and the SAG Awards.
Way to go, son! No, the wings! Ah!
Co-created by comedy legend Eugene Levy and his son, Dan, Schitt's Creek is packed full of the weird, the wild,
I tried, John, but I can't!
and the outright absurd.
We also have wings!
But it also breaks ground, fearlessly representing queer relationships and issues free from hate or judgment. So, as the final season is about to begin, I met with Eugene Levy to talk about the power of comedy and saying goodbye to Schitt's Creek.
Mr. Levy, very nice
Drew,
to meet you.
How are you?
Good, good.
Excellent. Are you having your coffee?
I will drink mine if you drink yours.
Yes,
Although
I will.
I think yours is cold. Maybe we can, we'll get a warm cup for you.
It may be cold, but this is where acting comes in.
Pretend to drink. Oh, good.
Wow, that's hot. Yeah.
Season 6 airs soon. Shooting's all wrapped up.
Shooting is done.
So tell us all about it.
Well, it's I think the resolution to the series, I think, will be something that will be embraced by our fans. I think
okay,
it
that's
ends.
not giving me much.
You're not getting anything, Andrew.
No, some kind of plot hint, some kind of teaser that would.
No, I'm just saying that there are, there may be one or two surprises, but everything kind of ends the way I think it should end.
Can you tell me about the last day of shooting? What that was like for you?
Well, the last day of shooting, we had kind of it was an interesting final week, because every set that we wrapped on, like the last scene we did in the motel, for instance, was a very, very emotional kind of experience. There were a lot of tears when actors would finish their last scene together. There was just 10 minutes of hugging and, crying. The motel set was actually our home. It felt like home to us on the set. The last scene we did in there was a very emotional scene where Johnny actually says, I think we're going to miss this little place. And, that was, and then of course, tears start happening again, and then you got to dry and retake. Yeah, it was very emotional.
There is an episode that I want to ask you about, and this was from the most recent season, I think, and it's the episode where your character accidentally outs David's boyfriend to his parents.
Mixing a business relationship and a romantic relationship, well, that can get kind of tricky sometimes.
In crafting that episode, I mean, you made some very deliberate choices about how that would unfold.
Right.
Tell me about crafting that episode.
I think Dan takes credit for that story and kind of crafting how it actually came out.
He is still the same person, and it's his birthday. And
David, we're not upset about Patrick being gay.
No. Oh my God. For a minute, I thought this was going to get very dark.
The thought that Patrick was feeling like he couldn't come and talk to us about this.
You've seen storylines with about gay characters who are always hitting an obstacle of some kind, where you have a parent who is upset at the fact that their child is gay or can't deal with it. Because what we've created with the town itself of Schitt's Creek, the idea the idea of making it an all-inclusive, devoid of homophobia. The idea is that Patrick's parents would not be upset.
Happy birthday, my sweet boy.
But you really wanted to avoid that tension, the kind of tension we've seen in
spearheaded by Dan. I mean, that was an important thing. The same way it was an important thing that he play a pansexual as a character, which even 6 years ago was, a very, very kind of gutsy thing to do.
I do drink red wine, but I also drink white wine. And I've been known to sample the occasional rosé. And a couple summers back, I tried a Merlot that used to be a Chardonnay, which got a bit complicated.
Okay, yeah, so you're just really open to all wines.
I like the wine and not the label. Does that make sense?
The legacy of Schitt's Creek, by the end of it all, is that it will have accomplished what?
I think the message that this show is sending out in a certainly not so subliminal a way is a very positive message about acceptance, inclusivity. I'm not a big social media person, but I do kind of look at the tweets coming in, and I do notice that a lot of them have to do with gay kids who say that it's because of this show they were able to come out, using the show to help them in their coming out to their parents and their families. One letter came in last week about a couple tragically who lost a child in the past year, and talked about the show as a way of them experiencing something that they never thought would happen again, which is to be able to laugh. And it's those messages and those letters that kind of reinforce the fact that I guess what the show is doing is much more than just being a hot, good half-hour comedy. It's actually sending. It's trying to actively change the way people see things. You know, create a more positive light on things that need to be lit a little more.
I saw a framed photo that you had given your son on the last day of shooting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, had you seen his reaction to that photo when Vogue asked him about it? It was in his house. He picked up the photo and he showed it. Have you seen that clip? Can we, so we have it here. I just wanted to show it to you at the same time.
Wow.
But it's just a very short little snippet. So here we go. I'll play that for you.
Photo of my family and a photo of me and my dad. My dad actually gave me this little framed photo on the last day of shooting our show.
What does it say on that?
It says, Daniel, it was an honor being your partner, son. Dad, XO. Oh, no. I don't want to cry for you, Vogue, but I just might.
You're so lucky to have a father like him.
He is a lovely, lovely, sweet, generous man.
You hadn't seen
Good. Yeah, lovely. Lovely. Well, that's 6 years of working with a very, very talented young man. It was just an amazing experience watching him grow as a writer, as a producer, as an actor and director for the past couple of seasons, directing a few episodes. Yeah, just really makes, my heart swell.
We love you both very much.
Love you too.
Love you too.
What's next for Eugene Levy?
Hopefully a little more golf. I don't know whether I want to necessarily hop back into another series, but I'll kind of look at little things that kind of excite me creatively, and do that, and hopefully have more time in between projects to spend with my wife Deb, and maybe travel and or do nothing. But it's nice to actually be able to get up in the morning and just think about where you want to go for lunch as the hottest thing on your agenda.
If you end up taking a break, you'll have earned it. Eugene Levy, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
And that message that Levy just touched on of acceptance and inclusivity, well, it's on display in Los Angeles right now. A giant billboard promoting the upcoming season shows Dan Levy's character, David Rose, kissing his on-screen boyfriend, Patrick Brewer. Some people have been so moved by it, they're taking photos of their own. Dan Levy said of the campaign, his teenage self would never have dreamed it to be true. You can catch Schitt's Creek Season 6 starting this Tuesday on CBC Television or on CBC Gem. It starts at 9 p.m., 9:30 in Newfoundland. Still ahead on The National, how Canadians are shopping in 2020. It is easier than ever to order online, but how many of us are opting out of in-store shopping? I feel like the answer is going to surprise you. We'll be right back.
I'm Jamie Poisson, and tomorrow on CBC's daily news podcast, Front Burner, as tensions ratchet up following the U.S. assassination of Iran's second most powerful man, we talk about what could happen next. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
I found some passport holders, I think. One purse.
Did you brave the malls on Boxing Day? You might think that crowds like these would keep more people home and maybe shopping for that good deal online. After all, point-and-click buying seems easy. Then there's that promise or hype about drone delivery someday to your door. But when I looked into what's actually happening in Canadian retail, I discovered that most of us are still buying most things the old-fashioned way. As you'll see, retailers say it's hard to replace the appeal of the human touch. From this warehouse in the Vancouver suburb of Richmond, one of BC's biggest retailers sends products not just to its stores across the West, but to online customers across the country. Despite its name, London Drugs is kind of a department store. And so these boxes contain everything from vacuum cleaners to electronics to, well...
Here's a classic case in this one. You've got pasta and dog treats.
Cosmetics would be an area where you're vulnerable to online sales competitors.
Yeah, no, Ian, you're right. I mean,
the president of London Drugs says its online sales have been growing by a big percentage for years, in the double digits. But Clint Mallman points out that's a big percentage of a relatively small number. Like most Canadian retailers, the vast majority of purchases, even small, easy-to-ship products like cosmetics, are done in person.
We continue to see customers enjoy the in-store experience for a whole host of different reasons. And one of the most important reasons is to find context for their purchases. They want to feel that cream, they want to see that TV's color, they want to hear that stereo sound, and they really do appreciate the authentic advice from staff.
Despite all the enthusiasm about online shopping, Statistics Canada says it makes up just under 6% of retail sales in the country. So while it has increased by about 50% in just the last 2 years, we still make the overwhelming majority of our purchases in store. Does that surprise you?
Actually, it doesn't. I mean, I think to a lot of people that might be surprising, but we have to recognize that people still love coming to the store. They love retail. They love, visiting their favorite brand and shopping in an environment like this.
Why are you here? Why are you at stores as opposed to just sitting at home with the mouse and the computer?
I live down the street, so that's why I'm here. But I also like coming here because there's more selection, there's more variety.
Clothes, I always do it in store because I need to try something on. So it really depends on what I'm buying. Some furniture, I prefer to do it online.
Furniture online?
Yeah, some furniture. I recently bought a coffee table and a TV stand. I bought that online.
But even if the online market remains a small percentage, retailers tell us online contact is essential. Arc'teryx, a high-end clothing maker based in BC, is opening more stores across Canada, but it's also expanding its digital reach.
I think it's not as black and white as that, and people really want to have it all and be able to research and be online and be inspired through social and Instagram storytelling and the narrative that's there, but then also to be able to come in and touch and feel and connect in person with the brand. And that's why we have an investment in all of those areas.
At London Drugs, they're seeing a surge in demand for online orders of same-day delivery, raising questions, says the company's president, about how sustainable it is to send more packages to more homes more quickly.
I think the future of retailing will be really driven by the cost of shipping and the amount of waste that currently exists within the shipping each is around in a very expensive way as an e-commerce player. That's a huge cost to both the customer and to the retailer, and I think that will have some limiting growth on how far e-commerce can grow in the future.
And just in case you're wondering about those StatsCan numbers, they are the most recent from late last year. They track retail sales within Canada, but it does exclude some categories that would skew towards in-person shopping: cars, gasoline, and restaurants. Well, still ahead on The National, a medical emergency turned into what one man calls his miracle. When he had a heart attack at his local curling rink, his fellow curlers jumped into action, but it goes beyond that. We'll have the story next in our moment. I guess there's no ideal time or place for a medical emergency, but for one man in Alberta who suffered a heart attack while curling, he was as fortunate on timing and place as anyone could be. Neil McKay says he survived because of a series of miracles. He was at his local curling rink, he had exactly the right people around him, and we'll let him tell you the rest in tonight's moment.
Well, I was at the curling club, which is not unusual because I'm there a couple of times a week. What is perhaps unusual and was a bit of a miracle was that I was there and not at home or somewhere else where help would have been either not available or just not in time. And during the game, I suffered cardiac arrest. Friends on the team immediately hollered for help. And another part of the miracle is that help was right next door on the next sheet of ice was a fireman. Miraculously, a brand new worker in the curling club, it was her first night of working, was also a nurse. And I suppose the third part of the miracle is that there was an AED, a defibrillator, in the rink. And the nurse and the fireman went to work immediately and got my heart started again. And I'm here today because of them.
He seems like the picture of health, right? And the reason apparently for that is that his heart was restarted so quickly. There was very little damage, he says, to his heart, to his brain. And so he thanks, of course, that firefighter and that nurse. And he said to us, could you mention their names? Of course we can. Roy Penner was the firefighter. Jessica Hoekstraw was the nurse. And as he said, the triple miracle of those two and the defibrillator. That is the National for Sunday, January the 5th. Good night.